Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kailin and I post videos mainly about eating disorder recovery and intuitive eating. So if that's something that you're interested in, I would love for you to click onto that subscribe button down below and become part of our little family. Today's video is another installment of our Truth About series, where we debunk popular diet myths, popular diets, and we go through the science and we see if they hold up or not, especially when it comes to the false promises that so many diets, well, promise to us as individuals. And today's video is going to be a big one because we are going to be talking about the paleo diet. This is a diet that is very close to my heart because when I was suffering from orthorexia, it was something that I dabbled in myself. So I'm really excited to be talking about this video, to be talking about the science, to be talking about the creator of the paleo diet. So let's just get into it. I do want to put a disclaimer on this video. Though anecdotal evidence is usually not evidence that I would put forward, there is still anecdotal evidence that a paleo diet can reduce symptoms of multiple sclerosis, also known as MS. And this video, or any of the videos within the entire Truth About series, is never to criticize somebody who may be eating a specific way to help manage their illness or reduce symptoms or anything like that. If that works for you and you're not telling other people to do it, fantastic. I think that that's great for you. The intention of this video is to truly criticize the harmful beliefs behind the paleo diet, which many people who participate in the diet subscribe to, and this idea that processed food causes cancer, illnesses, disabilities, everything like that. So we're going to be talking about those beliefs in particular. If there are certain things that we do have to remove to deal with symptoms, to deal with an illness, I don't want anybody to feel like this is a particular jab at them. This video is just going to be information and you can take it, leave it. Let's just roll and what is it, like kick this popsicle stand? Get this popsicle stand on a, I don't know. Let's just start. So what is the paleo diet? For people who are unaware, or for people who want a more concrete definition, this is it. So the Paleolithic diet is a modern diet that is modeled on prehistoric human diets. And there are so many other names for the paleo diet. Sometimes it's referred to as the Stone Age diet, the hunter-gatherer diet, and sometimes it's also referred to as the caveman diet. And so I think a conclusion that we can come down to is that paleo is essentially caveman cosplay. To a certain degree, that's what it is. The interesting thing about the paleo diet and why I believe it's very, very predatory is because they vehemently, or the creators of the paleo diet vehemently state that it's not a diet, that it really is something to follow for your health or for your wellness. And as we can see, the term wellness has sort of been co-opted by diet culture in general, which usually is like a more acceptable way to preach weight loss and to still preach a diet in a way that is more digestible and distances this diet from other diets, right? Like it's not like all the other girls or all of the other people, that kind of stuff. And the diet itself has received a lot of criticism from many people, and advocates of the diet continue to sort of reiterate this thought that it's for well-being and for, you know, longer lifespan, etc., etc. And we're going to evaluate the science later, and we're going to see how this is untrue. So buckle up, we're not there yet, but we're going to go through the science. So the foods that people eat on the paleo diet are meant to be from the Paleolithic era, which dates from approximately 2.5 million years ago to 10,000 years ago. So it's like a very big range when we're talking about the Paleolithic era. So this would usually include things like fish, lean meats, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, foods that can generally be obtained by like hunting and gathering, but we're still buying them at the store like everybody else. The diet also criticizes and removes foods that became very popular when farming sort of emerged, which was about 10,000 years ago. And these foods include dairy products, grains, legumes, all sorts of fun things that are great and amazing and delicious and wonderful for us. So the goal of the paleo diet is to revert back to the way that humans used to eat before farming, before industrialization, before food became processed, quote unquote. What's interesting to me when it comes to the goals of this diet, and a diet that vehemently claims to not be a diet or not be something for weight loss and is really just about wellness, is that another one of the goals is to allow the human body to return to its most natural weight. And no, this claim, there's nothing about weight loss within this specific claim, but I think you and I are smart enough to be able to read between the lines that if somebody is in a fat body or if they're a fat person, whatever it might be, whatever term you're most comfy using, is that that's not going to be acceptable on the paleo diet. And so even though they're claiming to not be a diet, there's still going to be some malnutrition as well as restriction that can potentially lead people to lose weight or chase after a body that was never their own body to begin with. A lot of supporters of the paleo diet think that the modern human body is generally mismatched with the farming practices or the foods that are produced through farming, etc. This is something that is called discordance hypothesis. I'm going to read the definition of discordance hypothesis right now. The belief that human evolution ceased 10,000 years ago and our Stone Age genetics are ill-equipped to cope with our modern diet and lifestyle, leading to the diseases of civilization. I don't know about you, but I really hope that as a species we've evolved in the past 10,000 years to a certain degree. I know that we tend to be taller, our weight tends to be heavier, and like that has a correlation in of itself just there. However, as a society, as human beings, as communities, as countries, our entire world has changed a lot in 10,000 years. And so have the inner workings of our body, because bodies are extremely adaptable. Anyway, I'm going to get into how problematic discordance hypothesis is later on in this video. But within that definition that I just read, there are statements that are being made that are like anti-science, statements that are being made that are very, very ableist, and also statements that are anti-evolution. Wow, okay, let's stick with it. This statement implies that almost all of our modern diseases and illnesses are caused by the foods that we eat. Something about the paleo diet, and this is something that I'm looping myself into as well, my past self, not my current self, is that many people on this diet feel superior to other people because they're not eating processed foods, quote unquote. Everything is processed these days. Doesn't matter if you're cooking a vegetable, that's a form of processing. So let's go back to that definition of discordance hypothesis and let's go throughout those points one by one. Okay, the first one is that human beings stopped evolving 10,000 years ago. Let's see, is this true? Absolutely not. Another assumption that this definition assumes is that everybody is just built the same genetically. And it also makes the assumption that a lot of prehistoric human beings, whether we're talking about 2.5 million years ago or 10,000 years ago, were all the same. They ate the same things, they looked the same way, and this is also untrue. There is a lot of genetic research that has shown notable evolutionary changes within the Paleolithic era, including diet-related changes, such as an increase in the number of genes related to the breakdown of dietary starches. And this is a positive evolutionary change because the result of it is our ability to eat more diversified foods compared to our caveman ancestors. Our bodies cannot possibly be the same as our Paleolithic ancestors. It's just, the science does not support it. One of the strongest studies when it comes to the efficiency of the Paleolithic diet was completed by somebody named Melberg and his team. So what he and his team did was they conducted a 2-year study, so a 24-month span. And throughout this 2-year study, what Melberg and his team concluded was that there was no change between their control group, which was just people who were not restricting their diets, just eating normally, versus people who were put on a paleo diet. There was no change between the two categories. The evidence that we have to date shows that there are few, if any, health benefits of switching over to a paleo diet. Something that these studies did mention, however, were the issues of adherence as well as palatability when it comes to the paleo diet. This makes the paleo diet very difficult to maintain because it can become extremely expensive as well as complicated to navigate, especially when people are dealing with hunger or cravings and their cravings are for foods that they're not allowed to have. I promise you, as human beings, we are wired to want what we can't have. Somebody who has curly hair, they're gonna want straight hair. Somebody who has straight hair, they're gonna want curly hair. We always want what we can't have. So if you tell yourself that you can't have cookies or something that you really enjoy, you're going to want it even more or more than you have ever before. Our brains are wired that way, okay? So the consensus from many of the research papers that I've read and just the research that I've done in general is that the paleo diet may help you lose weight. It may help you maintain a certain weight. However, there are no long-term studies that talk about the benefits of the paleo diet, nor the potential risks. Since we're talking about the paleo diet, I think something that is very important to address is not only ableism, but the whole survival of the fittest mentality. The paleo diet hypothesis is that humankind needs to go back to a more simple time where we did not eat processed, toxic foods. I'm using a lot of air quotes here, baby, because they're needed. We're trying to revert back to a more natural time when human beings were at their natural weights, which again, we can hear that this language is very laced with fat phobia. They also want us to revert back to a time when they also want us to revert back to when humankind didn't rely on vaccines, you know, to make sure that we were healthy, because man is strong. When we pull back the curtain, what do we actually see here? It's another cookie cutter diet that is rooted in right-wing capitalism with this whole belief that fat people, people in disabled bodies, poor people, people with chronic illness, that there is something wrong with them that they did to themselves, first things first, that is their fault. And also that they just don't deserve to be here, to take up space in any way. The discordance hypothesis that we were reading together earlier relies on very similar right-wing beliefs when it comes to herd mentality or survival of the fittest. We see this a lot when it comes to COVID, when we're talking about herd immunity or even herd mentality and people really caring about just themselves before prioritizing the health or safety of their entire community. An example of this is people not wanting to wear a mask because it's not their responsibility to care about people who are not strong enough to survive COVID. Let's hope karma's not a bitch, right? So many people believe that because they eat clean or because they don't eat processed foods, that not only are they morally superior because they've got, like, you know, more willpower and all of this stuff, but that they are genetically superior to somebody who doesn't eat those foods. Many other people also believed that the food that we eat or don't eat could help determine about whether or not we get COVID, which is, it's not how it works. Adamant supporters of the diet adamantly believe that there have been no huge scientific breakthroughs when it comes to human evolution within the past 10,000 years. And so the likelihood of them also being anti-vaccine is also extremely likely. Something else that's very likely within people who participate in the paleo diet is privilege. The paleo belief system relies almost entirely on being against universal health care because people are doing it to themselves, remember? And when it comes to accessibility for the disabled, it's also something that they're not on board with. Studies show that a paleo way of eating can increase your grocery bill by 10% at least, which is quite crippling in the economy as of right now. So let's talk about some of the discourse that has happened within the paleo community. Paleo spokespeople have gone as far as to say that eating processed food is going to cause disabilities, cause obesity, cause illnesses, etc. So essentially, if somebody is in the hospital and they're taking medication, they have an illness in which they're trying to get better and to get healthier and stronger to be able to leave the hospital, there is so much shame put on these individuals for needing that help, that access to medication or medical care in the first place, because they wouldn't be in this situation if they had just eaten cleaner to begin with, which again is not true. And a lot of you might be saying, like, where are you getting this source from? Like, this seems a little bit biased or whatever it might be. These are things that have actually been said and quoted by paleo spokesmen. Two that I'm going to name just right now are Pete Evans and Arnold DeVries. I think that's how you say his name, but honestly, I don't really care. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Pete Evans shortly, just so that you can get the kind of vibe of who he is. But a quick side note before we get there is that these messages are not only extremely uneducated with so much misinformation, but they are dangerous, they are anti-science, they are right-wing. And essentially we have this group of people who refuse to see the world through the lens of somebody else and are only able to think of themselves and at the same time not address their privilege when it comes to access or when it comes to health. Being in good health, not dealing with chronic illness is a privilege. Vaccines, medication, accommodations for the disabled are all positive modern inventions that are the result of science as well as human evolution. The discordance hypothesis that we mentioned earlier is basically a bunch of eugenics bullshit that only serves a very privileged few. So let's talk about Pete Evans. Who the heck is he? Let's go for it. When you do research on the paleo diet, Pete Evans is a name that you're going to see quite frequently. He is a celebrity chef who opened a paleo restaurant and is actually one of like the key people who basically took the paleo diet and made it mainstream, essentially. When you type in Pete Evans' name, or many celebrities' names, there's often like a little description about them that pops up, right? Like, Angelina Jolie is an American actress who, whatever. I don't know if she's an American actress, but I'm pretty sure she is. But anyway, this is what it says about Pete Evans. Peter Darrell Evans is an Australian chef and former television presenter who was a former judge of the competitive cooking show My Kitchen Rules. Evans has been heavily criticized for spreading misinformation about vaccinations and promoting pseudoscientific dieting ideas such as the Paleolithic diet. That's his bio. They cut right to the chase, right to the meat of this shit, that it's pseudoscience, it's not accurate, it's not backed up by science, and that he has spread a lot of misinformation. However, he's still one of the key figures of the paleo diet, which is just, it's interesting, right? And the guy who invented the paleo diet, the diet was also invented, just FYI, in 1952. That's Arnold, who we spoke about before, Arnold de Vries, whatever his name is. And you know what he also believed in? He also believed in eugenics. There's also an author, and his name is Walter L. Voetlin. I can't say his last name, but he wrote a novel promoting the paleo diet, and he also believed in eugenics. Let me read a quote from his book. Effective eugenics, if such were possible, could quite rapidly eradicate hereditary disease and undesirable mental and physical traits while enhancing desirable mental and somatic attributes. Are we really going to take information from somebody who not only, has like pseudoscience information, but who also believes in eugenics? I'm just saying. Let's talk a little bit about some of the side effects that could potentially happen when we engage with a paleo diet. I think one of the biggest health concerns is calcium deficiency. A 2008 study showed that people following a paleo diet had only around 50% of our calcium intake compared to the recommendation for human beings. And you might not know this, but if you do have a calcium deficiency and it's not corrected or rectified in any way, it can lead to osteoporosis, or your chances of getting osteoporosis is a lot higher. So let's talk about some of the other side effects that people may experience. The first one is diarrhea, because you're going to be having a lot of insoluble fiber. There's also irritability, bad breath, cravings, low blood sugar, also known as hypoglycemia, elevated levels of gut bacteria, kidney disease, which is a lot less common, but it does still happen, headaches, fatigue, and constipation. There is nothing really positive about a diet that exists to make people feel like their needs are simply inconvenient or their own fault. As human beings, we are extremely complex. We see this every single day. We are all so different from one another. There is no right way to eat. There is no diet that is perfect for all human beings. There's also nothing wrong with evolution or modern medicine or science, or even modern food. Accommodation and accessibility are good things. People in marginalized bodies deserve to take up space and have their needs met. And frankly, this world should not revolve around the comfort level of able-bodied white men. So that is essentially the paleo diet in a nutshell. A lot of ableism going on, a lot of pseudoscience, a lot of misinformation, a lot of shame, and frankly, not a lot of evidence. I just want us to conclude this video with a couple more reminders, right? Is that food is not inherently good or bad. Food is neutral, right? Some people are allergic to peanuts and it makes them die. Other people aren't allergic to peanuts. Does that make peanuts bad? No. Every body is different. And food is not inherently good or inherently bad. And the only foods that we should not consume are foods that we don't like, food that's gone bad, or foods that we're allergic to. Like, those are the only 3 things that we should not be eating. Another little tip that I want us to sort of leave this video with is to believe science, not celebrity chefs or people who write books or fitness bloggers who come out with, you know, these expensive guides and recipe books about gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, paleo approved fucking bullshit ebooks. I'm thinking of a specific creator in my mind, and I hope that that wasn't too specific to where other people are gonna be like, oh, I know what you're talking about. But frankly, if you get it, you get it. Look at the research yourself if you're interested in the paleo diet and learning more about why it's not something that we should engage with. But every single person watching this video deserves to have their needs met, deserves to feel loved, deserves to take up space, to get attention, and also deserves to honor what their body is craving. Our bodies are smart, smarter than we think they are, and it's time to put a little bit of trust back into it. But anyway, that is going to be it for this Truth About installment today. If you like videos like this, then give me a thumbs up, leave me a kind comment down below, and let me know what installment I should do next when it comes to the Truth About series. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to do something kind for yourself today, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, friends.